Hello, I'm Mike, and this is Will. We are the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And we're bringing you issue 31 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine today. This is your game with our first Chaos Space Marines models, a Dark Apostle and his 2 Dark Disciples, and in today's game he'll be trying to earn the favour of the Dark Gods. So looking for the issue, first up we have the build guide for the Dark Apostle, and it's actually his 2 Dark Disciples. They're reasonably easy to put together. The one on the left that has the sort of lectern on his back, you need to be a little bit careful positioning it, and with the other one you perhaps need to be a bit careful with his hands, just need to be a bit careful to not bend any of the chain or anything. And then the Apostle himself, again, he goes together fairly easily. Again, you do need to be a bit careful to not bend anything, like the parchments coming down from his chest, or maybe the flames on the back of his power pack, but otherwise he should be fine. And the painting guide's going for the Black Legion colour scheme. So starting off with an Abaddon Black base, Lead Belcher for any mechanical parts and also the braziers, and then Baron Burgundy for his cloak. Don't forget that it goes over his chest as well. Catachan Flesh for his gun holster and the belt that goes around him. And then Mephiston Red for the leather on his book, the haft of his Cursed Crozius and any of the candles. And then the one downside with these Chaos Morals is while they look really good, they have an awful lot of trim. So you're going to have to go over all of it with Retributor armor, and it will take at least 2 coats to get a smooth colour. So just take your time with it. You can touch up any mistakes afterwards. And you've also got Rakar Flesh for the parchment of his book and his chest, Wraithbone for his face, and Corax White for the beads on his necklace. And then for the 2 Dark Disciples, again starting with an Abaddon Black base coat, Baron Burgundy for their robes, Catachan Flesh for any leather parts, like one of them has a pouch, Wraithbone for their skin, Rakar Flesh for the parchments, Lead Belcher for the chain and the censer, and Retributor armor for the lectern, and adding a bit more detail with Mephiston Red for the inside of their robes and their sleeves, and then Mechanica Standard Grey for their trousers and the sleeves of their undershirt. Then moving on to washes, Nolan Ore for all the Lead Belcher parts, and any of the red bits and burgundy bits, and finally Agrat's Earthshade for any of the parchments. So you can see them up to this point, getting a fair few of the base colours down. And then you have the collect article for them, so this is where you can give them a name, or give the Apostle a name, because I don't really think you care about these 2 minions, and record when you've built, painted and played with them. Dark Apostles are the sort of priesthood of the forces of chaos, the kind of dark equivalent to the chaplains of the Imperium. They usually shout prayers to inspire their allies, and are usually accompanied by these disciples, carrying various blasphemous icons and otherwise helping their master. And then we have his datasheet. I'll leave Will to handle that, because after that we have a Chaos Marine character name generator, so this will be for the Apostle and the Hellbrute we get, and so it has 5 different ones. First up we have for Chaos Undivided, so some worshippers follow the entire pantheon. We have learned about the 4 major gods. People who worship Chaos Undivided worship them all sort of equally, or whoever's power serves their purpose at the time. And then you have 1 each for each of the major gods, Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle and Slaanesh. So now I hand you over to Will. He'll take us through the Dark Apostles datasheet and get us into today's game.
So we start with the Dark Apostles data sheet. You can see there are actually 2 lines on his profile because the Dark Disciples have a slightly different profile, but the Dark Apostle himself has a 6-inch move, toughness 4 with a 3+ save, 4 wounds, a 5+ leadership and 1 OC, and his 2 Dark Disciples have a 6-inch move, toughness 4 but only a 6+ save and 1 wound and a 7+ leadership and 1 OC. And it says in vulnerable save 4+, that does apply to the whole unit, not just the Dark Disciples. It's a little bit confusing. Doesn't actually say so here. We'll have to wait for the full combat patrol description for the Chaos Space Marines to see which models actually have which weapons, but I can tell you the Dark Apostle has a bolt pistol, which is just the same as the Space Marine ones. He has an Accursed Crozius as a melee weapon, which has 5 attacks that hit on 2s, strength 6 minus 1 AP and 2 damage, and the 2 Dark Disciples are only armed with close combat weapons, which are 1 attack that hits on a 4, strength 3, no AP, 1 damage. And he can be attached to the unit of Legionaries, which we'll get in a couple of issues' time. His faction ability is called Dark Pacts, which we haven't learnt yet. We'll get that once we have the whole combat patrol. And he has a special rule called Dark Zealotry, so while he's leading the unit, and it contains a Dark Apostle model, because theoretically you could just have Dark Disciples left, each time a model in the unit makes a melee attack, you add 1 to the wound roll. All 3 models have the Infantry and Chaos keywords, and the Dark Apostle himself has the Character and Dark Apostle keywords. This is the first leader unit we've had that consists of multiple models, so the way that works is that when you are allocating attacks to a unit, you still can only allocate them to the body armor unit before you can get to the leader unit, but only the Dark Apostle himself has the Character keyword, and they have the Heretic Astartes faction keyword, which will be the Chaos Space Marines Combat Patrol. Then we have a special scenario to introduce the Dark Apostle called Arena of Madness, in which the Dark Apostle must prove his worth to the Dark Gods in exchange for rewards. So I'll show you the battlefield. The Dark Apostle and the two Dark Disciples start in the middle of a single battle mat, and there are two areas in the bottom left and top right areas of the board which represent gateways, and they've put a nice swirly effect here, but they don't give us any terrain for that, so you just have to imagine that once we get to the game. And those are where the foes of the Dark Apostle will arrive, that he has to best. And the way that works is that he's deployed in the centre, as it says. Then the opposition player rolls a dice and deploys the corresponding unit on Gateway 1. And these can come from any of the factions that we've had so far. So on a 1, you deploy 2 Infernus Marines. On a 2, it's 3 Guardian Defenders. A 3 is 3 Termagants. A 4 is 1 Terminator. A 5 is 1 Windrider. And a 6 is 1 Von Ryan's Leaper. And during each of their subsequent command phases, the opposition player makes another roll and deploys the corresponding unit in the gateway they did not use when deploying their previous unit. So they'll alternate. And the Chaos Space Marine player gets the first turn. But the victory conditions are special, and the Chaos Space Marine player must select one at the start of the game from the options overleaf. So there's one of these for each of the 4 Chaos Gods. So if the Dark Apostle wishes to dedicate victory to Khorne, he has to destroy 5 enemy models, and as soon as that is achieved, the battle ends and the Chaos Space Marine player wins. But if the Dark Apostle is destroyed before he can do that, then obviously the opposition player wins. He can instead dedicate victory to Tzeentch, in which he must destroy at least one model from each of the 3 possible enemy factions, the Space Marines, Eldari and Tyranids. Likewise, as soon as that's achieved, the Chaos Space Marine player wins, otherwise he's destroyed, he loses. In order to win victory for Nurgle, the Dark Apostle must survive for 5 battle rounds with at least one model left. Or to dedicate victory to Slaanesh, it says he must inflict 12 wounds on the enemy. We assume what that means is inflict 12 damage worth, rather than just successful wound rolls, but it's not entirely clear, but we're going to assume that it means inflict 12 damage, and once again that is successful as soon as it's achieved. And then we just have a gameplay example where we must be on turn 2 because there are 2 units on the board. The Dark Apostle is engaged in Termagants in melee, but the opposition player has decided to keep 2 Infernus Marines back so that once the Termagants are dealt with, he can use the flamethrowers. And finally we have the victory outcomes, so whether the Dark Apostle achieves ascension and is granted powers or is damned for his failure to please the Dark Gods. But you can have a look at those and we'll see how our Dark Apostle does. So here we are, we've just got the Dark Apostle and his 2 friends to start with, and obviously you'll have to imagine the gateways. And here you can actually see the Dark Apostle and 2 Dark Disciples up a little closer.
Yeah, and I've gone for a red Corsairs colour scheme. It's something a little bit different than the usual Black Legion you'd see, the magazine will tell you. Yeah, and I think the victory condition I'm going to go for is the Khorne one, to kill 5 enemy models. I think the others are all a bit too random or relying on certain things to show up.
And then we can roll for the first opponent. That is a 2, which will be a unit of 3 Guardian Defenders. So 3 Guardian Defenders have appeared in Gateway 1, but the Dark Apostle gets to go first, so we will be into Chaos Space Marines turn 1.
Well, time to do things the Khorne way and get stuck in. We're just going to move directly towards the Guardians. So we're just going to fire his bolt pistol at the Guardians, hitting on a 3, it hits. Strength 4, so wounds on a 3, no. And then we're just going to charge. And definitely in with an 8, appropriate as well.
So he just gets in like that. And of course the 2 Dark Disciples are part of the unit as well, so they do have to remain in coherency and all that kind of thing, and they can get in and fight as well.
So Dark Apostle's got 5 attacks, hitting on 2s. You know, I'm going to re-roll that 1 into a hit. And then strength 6, so wounding on 2s. 4 wounds at AP -1. He doesn't get his +1 to wound for Dark Zealotry because he's not actually leading a unit.
So I'll just have 4 5+ saves, which I made 1 of, but 3 is enough to kill 3 Guardians. So that's 3 models down for the Khorne tally already. But that'll be the end of the Dark Apostle's turn, and then I suppose we'll be into, well, opposition turn 1. So another unit will appear in Gateway 2 this time, and a 5 is a single Windrider. And the scenario doesn't specify, so I'm actually going to roll to see what weapons it has. Since 2/3 of them have shuriken catapults and 1/3 have a scatter laser, we'll do a 5 or a 6 has a scatter laser. Nope, it has shuriken catapults. So a Windrider has arrived, and then it can move, and it's going to move to there. I figure a Windrider is probably not going to go swooping in melee, so the Dark Apostle will have to come to it, but then it can shoot with its shuriken catapults. So it'll have 2 shots hitting on 3s. They both miss, but we assume we get command points in this mission, and I have 2, so I'll spend 1 to re-roll. Nope, still missed. And that'll be the end of its turn. So on to Chaos Space Marines turn 2.
So we've got to go and chase down the Windrider. Try and plink a wound off with the pistol. Missed. And then the charge, we need about an 8 to get in range, and 9 will be enough. So we get in, gonna try and give the Windrider a smack with the Crozius. 5 attacks on 2s. I'm gonna re-roll one of those 1s. That's 4 hits. Strength 6 versus toughness 4, so 3s. 3 wounds at AP -1.
So these are on 4s, but it does do 2 damage, so it has to pass all of them. Oh, it did.
And then 2 close combat attacks from the Disciples on 4s, getting a hit and another wound.
So then the Wind Rider gets to hit back, and 3 attacks hitting on 3s, so they all hit. But wounding on 5 though, because the whole unit is toughness 4. Only 1. I suppose I have a command point, so I might as well try and re-roll. Nope, 1 wound, no AP.
I'll do on one of the Dark Disciples, so 4 plus invulnerable save. Nope, lose a Disciple.
So a Disciple down, and we'll head into Adversary's turn 2. So rolling for a new unit, this time in Gateway 1. 6, that will be 1 Von Ryan's Leaper. So Von Ryan's Leaper has arrived to support its, well, it's not really friend. I suppose they're technically on the same side in this scenario. So the Wind Rider has fallen back and zoomed across the board, while the Von Ryan's Leaper has moved up to charge. And the Wind Rider obviously can't shoot because it fell back, so we will do the charge for Von Ryan's Leaper. And it rolls a 3, which is probably not enough. It is not, so we shall have to re-roll. We'll get an 8. And the Leaper has 6 attacks, hitting on 3s. 5 hits, wounding on 3s. This is toughness 4. Only 3. I suppose I will re-roll 1. Nope, only 3. At -1.
So I've got 1 Disciple left, so I'll put wounds on him until he dies. So the first one, he dies, but I'm going to re-roll it. No, he still dies. And then 2 on the Dark Apostle. He still can't make any saves, he's down to 2 wounds.
So just the Dark Apostle left, but he gets to hit back.
5 attacks on 2s. They all hit. Strength 6 versus toughness 5, so 3s. 4 wounds at -1.
5 plus saves. Only made 1, so the Leaper is killed, and the Corn tally is up to 4, only 1 to go. And we'll head into Chaos Space Marines turn 3.
So the Dark Apostle, because he's got 2 friends who are dead, actually has to take a battle shock test because he's below half strength. Seems a bit weird, not sure why he cares so much about them, but his leadership's 5, so he's fine. Right, just need to hunt down this jet bike. Just 1 more kill for Corn. We might as well shoot him with a pistol. Plink. Nope. And then charging with a 6.
Yep, that was just enough, so Dark Apostle makes it into melee once again.
5 attacks on 2s. I'm going to re-roll one of those ones. Into a hit. 4 hits, wounding on 3s, getting 2.
2 saves at 4 plus. Oh, failed both this time, so that will be a kill because I can't re-roll both of them. So the Wind Rider goes down, and that's a victory for the Dark Apostle. But we might as well carry on the scenario and see how much else he can beat, see if he can actually complete any of the other objectives, because the Red Corsairs are actually not necessarily dedicated to one god anyway. They'll use whatever chaos power they can get to further their own ends. So when we consider the Slanesh tally, he's actually already done 8 damage, or 8 wounds already, so he just needs to survive for 5 battle rounds and kill a Space Marine in order to achieve the other 2. But we'll see what he'll be facing in Adversary's turn 3. A 1, that will be 2 Infernus Marines. So 2 Infernus Marines have arrived in Gateway 2, and they don't actually need to move to be in range, so they're just going to shoot him with their Pyre Blasters. 2d6 automatic hits, 7. And these will be winning on 3s because the Dark Apostle is toughness 4. 5, but no AP. But he's only got a 3 plus save base. Oh, he's alive.
I'm going to re-roll that 1 because I'd rather not die. Yeah, no damage taken.
And actually they might as well charge him because then they'll get to strike first rather than be charged. And they're Silver Templars anyway, so they would probably seek to engage the foe in a duel. Well, that's 2 on 1 I suppose, but he's a heretic so he doesn't count. Probably need about a 6, or a 10 will be enough. So they make it in, and then they get to attack first. And they have 6 attacks, hitting on 3s. Well, they get 5. Wounding on 4s. 2. Yeah, I'll save the command point to try and keep one alive.
So 2 3 plus saves. Gonna re-roll that 1. So we're still on 2 wounds. 5 attacks on 2s. They all hit. Strength 6, so wounding on 3s. 3 wounds at -1.
4 plus saves. Oh, we made them all. The Marines are still there. We'll be heading into Dark Apostle turn 4.
No point running away, just going to stick it out, try and do something with the... No, bolt pistol still missed. Oh, I should have done battle shot for him actually. Oh, he would have failed.
And then the Marines get to strike first because it's the Chaos turn. Another 6 attacks on 3s, getting 4. 4s to wound. 4 3.
3s. Oh no, it's down to 1.
And you guys get to strike back.
5 attacks on 2s, and only getting 3. And then 3 wounds.
4s. 1 fail. We re-roll it. Yes, doesn't kill a Marine. On to Adversary's turn 4, and we get something else. A 4, that's a single Terminator. There are 5 Terminators, so 1, 2 or 3 will have a Storm Bolter and Power Fist, 4 will be Power Fist and Assault Cannon, and a 5 will be the Sergeant with Storm Bolter and Power Sword, and I'll reroll a 6. Now, of course I rolled a 6. A 3, that's just a normal Storm Bolter. So the Emperor's Justice is arriving in the form of a Terminator, but it might take a little while to get there. So the Infernus Marines have fallen back and the Terminator is trudging up. But the Terminator gets to shoot 4 shots on 3s. We're assuming I don't get Oath of Moment or anything like that, so it'll be 3 hits. And forced wound 2.
Still alive.
Then the Terminator can make a charge, needs a decent number though. A 6 will not be enough. I suppose I might as well re-roll it. No, definitely not a 2, so the Terminator is not in melee yet. So the Dark Apostle's still hanging on, surrounded by Space Marines, and we'll head into his turn 5.
Shock test. He's fine this time.
You can re-roll again.
Dark Apostle, we're going to move up. And you know what? We're going to shoot the Terminator with the bolt pistol because he's got 3 wounds. Brings him down to 1 hit range. We hit. 5 to wound. We're wounded.
2 plus save. Oh no! Well, I've got a command point to spend, so I suppose I might as well because it's a different phase. Yes, okay, so.
And the charge. A 3 is enough to get him into the Infernus Marines.
So there we go. I'm going to try and take on these Marines again.
Yep. 5 attacks on 2s. We all hit. And 3s. I'm going to have to use my reroll here. 4 wounds at -1.
Forced save. They've been doing quite well so far. They failed 2, so 1 will definitely die, but I'll spend the command point to try and keep the other one alive. No, it kills both.
And that will actually mean I will achieve the Slanesh objective, having inflicted 12 points of damage, and the Tzeentch objective, having killed 1 each of the enemy factions.
So he just needs to survive the Terminator's last turn, and that will complete the Nurgle objective as well. But we'll see if he can manage it in Adversary turn 5. Although I do actually get another unit as well, which will actually be arriving right on top of him, pretty much. And it will be another Wind Rider. And we'll roll for its armament again. It's another Shuriken Catapult. So the Wind Rider will arrive in the gateway, but it's going to stay away from the Dark Apostle. And then the Terminator will move closer, and both units get to shoot. Do the Terminator first on 3s, they all hit. And 4s, 3.
3s, made them all.
And 2 Shuriken Catapult shots. Oh, it still can't hit. But it does get to reroll once, because he is the closest target. It cannot hit anything. So then the Terminator will attempt to charge. The Wind Rider might as well, but we'll see if the Terminator gets in. Well, with a 9 it does. So the Wind Rider will go in as well. Yes. So both get in like this, and both units get to attack him first. Try and do that last wound. 3 attacks from the Terminator, hitting on 3s. Getting 2. You know what, I think I'll re-roll this, because I don't care about losing models anymore. They all hit. Wounding on 2s, because it's strength 8. They all wound. They are -2, but he'll have his invulnerable save.
Yep.
Oh,
Gonna re-roll that.
made 2. 50-50 chance.
He lives.
Can the Wind Rider do the job? He hits twice. Winning on 5s though. Nothing. So that actually does mean he will succeed, but we'll do his attack.
Yeah, well, attack the Terminator. Death to the false Emperor. 5 attacks on 2s. No, use my reroll. 3s. Oh, 1 wound.
With a 3 plus save. Oh, well, he actually does do 2 damage to the Terminator, but it's not going to die. But that will be the end of Battle Round 5, so the Dark Apostle survives to complete the Nurgle objective as well, so he's gained the favour of all 4 of the Dark Gods. So I think that's definitely a Chaos Space Marine victory, and we'll recap that for you now. So that was the game from issue 31 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine, and the introduction to the Dark Apostle. How do you think that went?
Oh, pretty well, to be honest. I actually achieved all 4 victory conditions, and I only needed 1. Probably argued that the Khorne one's the easiest, because you're pretty likely to get Termagants and Guardians, which are nice and easy to kill.
It could be a little bit random. For example, you could pick the Khorne one and only get single models.
Well, I think the Nurgle one and the Slanesh one are the more long-term ones. Nurgle, you'll win by default eventually, and with Slanesh, you'll probably eventually do enough damage. With Khorne, you might only get single model units. And with Tzeentch, you just might not get all 3 factions showing up.
You're actually quite unlikely to achieve the Slanesh one before the Khorne one, because unless you get, say, 4 Terminators or 4 Leapers, you can't really do 12 damage before you've killed 5 models.
Yes, and also it is worth noting that when it comes to inflicting damage, even though I can't remember how many wounds went through on the Guardians, they still only take 1 damage each, so it only counts to 3 towards the total, and not 10 or however many I did.
Yeah, and again, the wording is a little bit vague as to what inflicting wounds actually actually means, assuming it doesn't just mean successful wound rolls, because that would make it very easy. And also we did roll randomly for the armaments. Otherwise I would have always brought in a scatter laser, or always brought in the Terminator with the assault cannon, because they're just better, but felt more in keeping with the scenario to randomise that as well.
I guess it's nice to have fun little scenarios on occasion. It doesn't really show off the Dark Apostle's abilities other than he's decently good in melee. The Dark Disciples seem a bit pointless in combat patrol, because in the full rules they do have an ability that lets them go off and explode things to do mortal wounds, which is probably a bit more useful. I suppose they effectively give him 2 extra wounds.
Yeah, they do have the odd effect that they make him take battle shock when he loses them, because it's technically half strength. So most of the time you probably have him attached to the unit of legionaries that we'll get, though.
Yeah, and +1 to wound on a unit of legionaries is actually quite good. I think 4 of the legionaries are made with melee weapons, so he goes with them. And they're strength 4, so that's the sort of thing where they end up wounding guardians on 2s or terminators on 4s, marines on 3s, that sort of thing. So he has leadership 5, which is good for the Dark Pacts rule, because that's based off leadership. It does make his squad more likely to be able to achieve it, but again, we'll have to talk about that when that comes up.
Obviously he's a little bit squishy. He does have his 2 friends to take wounds for him, and they do have a 4+ invulnerable save, but he only has 4 wounds himself and toughness 4 and a 3+ save, so he didn't really face concentrated firepower in this game, but you can imagine if he's by himself, then just shooting him with a full strength unit, there's a decent chance of getting rid of him or at least injuring him.
And it's a really cool pose and model. It certainly fits the Dark Preacher look. Well, he's basically the Chaos version of a chaplain, so perhaps doesn't fit so well into the Red Corsairs, because I think they're more about being renegades as opposed to Chaos worshippers, but they probably would have a few.
Once you start down the path of Chaos, you probably can get some individuals who'll end up more corrupted than others, and those who want to lead their brethren further down the road. Oh, and then obviously the painting instructions do tell you to paint them as the Black Legion, which looks very good if you get that scheme down. You do start with black, and then you have to paint all of the gold trim. It will take quite a while, and probably 2 coats of Retributor armour, and you will most likely make some mistakes spilling the gold over onto the black, so I'd recommend waiting to tidy up the black until right at the end, because you're probably going to have to do extra black in a number of places if you're doing that scheme. But whatever colour scheme you're doing, you've still got to paint the trim individually anyway.
And obviously it's a good saving as well, because he's a character. You can buy him separately, probably be £20 odd, so getting him for 10 is always a good saving.
But I think that'll do for this video and this issue, so let us know what you thought in the comments below. If you've tried it with your Dark Apostle, let us know how he got on. Which god did you decide to dedicate your Dark Apostle to? Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. We've been the Tabletop Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.